All right, hello and welcome. So in this live video, we are going to be talking about the main reason why we self-sabotage and we don't see the results that we probably want to see. Now, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Kieran Miller. I'm a sports therapist and personal trainer. I've been in the industry now for like over 15 years, and in that space of time, I've helped like hundreds of clients get in shape, tone up, and get over their injuries. Now, for me, the main reason why I do these talks and I kind of give this when I deliver these talks, really what I want to do is I really want to kind of give transformation, not just information. And the reason why I say that is because really what I'm looking to do is kind of give a paradigm shift. Now, paradigm shifts is just simply if you're thinking about one thing one way, now you're thinking about it a different way. That's all it kind of is. So in order to kind of change your behaviors and start to see the results you want to see, you need to kind of have these mind changes, have these different thoughts to then start having different beliefs, to then start behaving differently, right? So what am I talking about here? Now, the main reason why we kind of see people self-sabotaging is simply because people care what people think too much, right? Or we care what people think too much, right? And I'm going to give you loads of examples of how this shows up and kind of stops people from doing what they want to do and getting and seeing the results they want to see. So for example, one thing is, let's take personal training for example. Well, the main reason why personal trainers actually have a job is because a lot of the time people, when they want to get in shape, they don't have the confidence to go and do it alone. But really, what is confidence? Well, that's just simply, you don't want to look silly, right? So even if you don't know the people are worried about, how am I going to be perceived? How am I going to be, viewed? What is this person going to think? Even though they're complete strangers. But that's what it boils down to, is people don't really want to, see those changes. People don't really want to have that, go through the difficulty or feel embarrassed, right? So they don't want to be made a fool of. So they don't want to go to the gym. They don't want to work out. Because, if they do an exercise wrong, they might be seen to be, being silly, for example. So, sorry guys, 1 second. I'm just on Facebook as well. So what was I saying now? And this shows up time and time again. Now, another example is where people, they don't want to feel like they're, inconveniencing anyone. Yeah. So I'll give you a funny example that I've been through, that I've gone through, and that is where when I'd be driving my car, I'd see a space to pull into. Now, instead of me driving up to that space, stopping the traffic behind me, pulling into that space, I used to, I don't do this anymore, but I'd go up to the space, notice there was someone behind me, and because I don't want to inconvenience this complete stranger, I would drive past the space, go around the block to come back to get and pull into that space. Now, this is ridiculous when you think about it, because 9 times out of 10 what happened in the past was I'd drive past the space, go around the corner, and the person who was behind me is pulled into that space. So this is an example of, because I didn't want to inconvenience this person, I've lost out, And this shows up time and time again in our lives, and in different areas, different ways, where because people don't want to put people out or be perceived to be a bad person, they're going to do this thing where, they're going to be Mr. Nice Guy, and then, you end up harming yourself for the benefit of other people who actually don't mind you doing what you were doing in the first place. Another example of that would be when you're in a restaurant and, you don't want to call the waiter over because you've called them over twice already. Or, you don't want to make them feel like, okay, well, because you keep asking them, you're that type of person, for example. So these are just kind of more examples of how this happens, time and time again. Now, in particular with like body shape change, one example of where we might create a belief around this is when we're, sorry, 1 second. When we're in the gym and I mean, even before we get to the gym, let's say when you were at school, let's say you got good grades at school and the teacher singled you out and said, oh, you know, well done, so-and-so, you got fantastic grades, blah, blah, blah. And then one of your schoolmates, one of your friends then said, oh, you know, you're a keener, or you're this, or you're that. So your friend kind of treated you in a certain way that was distasteful for you doing a good thing. And because of those little incidents, those little behaviors, what tends to happen is, you know, you might create a belief that if I succeed, if I do well, you know, my social circle is going to shun me, my social circle is going to push me away. And it's very insidious what I'm talking about, you know, how we create these like micro beliefs that turn into like bigger things as we go into adulthood. But it can be something as simple as that starts us to, you know, push us down a road where we're not living up to our full potential because of fear of what people might think. And, you know, this comes out in so many ways and kind of holds us back, that, you know, it can be really difficult to kind of see real change and get the benefits that we're after in these types of situations. So obviously I've spoken a little bit about how this shows up and how it kind of holds us back. But really what I want to do is I want to kind of go into how we can get over this and start to be aware that we're doing it first and foremost, and how to kind of overcome it. So really what we really need to look at is we need to look at strategies and ways that we can start to notice when we're changing our behavior based on what people might think. Now, I'll give you another example. Some time ago, I was learning how to become funny. I was learning about comedy and stand-up, and I was learning the nuances of, you know, what makes something funny, for example. And I was at work and my colleague was there, and we were talking, and I had a situation where I could have told a joke because there was like a setup for it, there was an opportunity for it. And I remember I was about to leave and I thought to myself, oh, I should tell that joke, I can tell this joke here. And then a voice came out of nowhere and was like, well, don't tell the joke because you might mess it up. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. Like, you know, where did that come from? Who said that? So actually what I did was I went back and I went and told the joke. So I went to leave because this voice said, you know, don't tell the joke. But then I went back and I actually told the joke, and the joke went down really well. And my colleague, she was like in hysterics. She was, you know, real like belly deep laugh. And I felt really good because, you know, I was able to provide that experience for her, you know, to give that really good laugh because of the joke I told. And, you know, this is just an example of why what I'm talking about is important, because when you change your behaviors because of fear, meaning that you're worried about making a mistake, so you're worried about being judged, what happens is you don't then, you know, express yourself. You don't really fully show up. So in that opportunity where I had this opportunity to make this person laugh and you know, improve their day, had I have listened to that little voice in my head that said, don't tell the joke, you might make a mistake, I wouldn't have done it in the past. But I did, and it went down all right, and so on and so forth. And this is just like one example, but, you know, again, I can give many examples of how, you know, it's so very subtle, but it affects us in such a big way. And, you know, for me, I've seen massive changes in my life, in not only my behavior, but, you know, in my successes as well, because now I'm not so worried about being perceived as bad or, you know, caring what people think as much. So now I'm able to move in a much freer way without this restriction, without this kind of holding me back. So to bring it into terms of like body shape and body shape change, another thing is how you perceive other people, right? And this is a good kind of tip, which is kind of leading me on to telling you guys how to actually develop this skill for yourself, which is, you know, watching yourself, how you judge people. Now, some years ago when I first started out in business, I remembered I wanted to be really successful, but I was really struggling because, you know, I had some self-limiting beliefs and different bits and pieces. And I remember seeing a nice car that I thought, you know, I would want. And I was on my bike at the time and I was riding along and I saw this car and I was like, wow, that's a nice car. And then that little voice again jumped in my head and said, yeah, but I bet they didn't work hard to get it. Or, yeah, but I bet, you know, they inherited money. Or, yeah, they were a drug dealer. Or, you know, it was something like super negative. And I remember thinking like, wow, like, first of all, who the hell said that? Because I wouldn't think, you know, I would be so judgmental. But because, you know, I was raising my awareness to start to listen to these thoughts, I recognized that, man, like, you know, this is obviously a belief I have that if I'm successful and I've got nice things, people are going to judge me. So this all happens on a subconscious level, you know, it's not, you don't think about it. It's such a quick, fleeting process. But if you see someone and they're in great shape and you say to yourself, oh, yeah, but I bet X, Y, Z, this is a good sign that you have a belief that if you achieve that, people are going to judge you because you're doing it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not a conscious thing. You're not doing it on purpose. It's just the way the mind works, and it's the way our ego kind of represents itself to keep you where you are. So one of the things I'd encourage you to do is become aware of, you know, the thoughts you're having, and become aware of what stories you're telling yourself and what you're hearing around whatever goal it is you're trying to achieve. Because this is a good indication of where you can improve and find, you know, good personal development areas to work on. So I promised you guys that I would tell you a strategy to become aware of how you might be worrying about what people think. And this is it. So the first thing is to become aware of your thoughts. Now, here's the trick. When you go to do something and you hear the voice say, no, don't do that because X, Y, Z. The X, Y, Z isn't important. Recognize that you've just changed your behavior based on the fear. And now what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and do it anyway. So if we go back to the example of the comedy, me telling the joke, I went to tell the joke. A voice said, no, don't tell the joke. You're going to mess it up. I went to leave and I thought, oh, actually, no, let me go back and do what I want to do. So that's how it will pop up for you. And hopefully, if you're watching this, you will be in a situation where you'll go to change your behavior, catch yourself doing it, and then go ahead and do whatever it is you wanted to do. Now, it will take courage. And what I would say is if you act quickly, you'll be able to override your fear and do what you want to do without necessarily, you know, having this hang up for too long. So that's tip number one, is catch yourself trying to change your behaviors based on the fear and then go ahead and do it anyway. It does take a little bit of courage, as I said, but it's what needs to happen. And tip number two is to say this affirmation. Now, be open-minded, bear with me. This affirmation is super, super powerful and it will start to change you. Now, how affirmations work is what you're doing is by repeating sentences or sayings, you are effectively reprogramming your subconscious mind to learn a new belief system. Now, in terms of you caring what people think, this is a super powerful affirmation that has helped me massively, and that's simply this. You would say to yourself, either out loud or in your head, bear with me, you would say, I am completely independent of the good or bad opinions of other people. I'm going to say that again. I am completely independent of the good or bad opinions of other people. Now, why is it important to say good or bad? Because it works both ways. If you care about praise and if you care about people's adulation, then you're gonna care about people's negative comments as well. Does that make sense? So if you care about, you know, getting lots of praise and having lots of likes and lots of comments on your posts and everything, then what happens when you don't have that is you're gonna feel negatively. So you have to train yourself to become unaffected by good praise as well as bad praise. And you do that by repeating the affirmation, which I gave you. I'll give you one more time. And that is, I am completely independent of the good or bad opinions of other people. And then you say that to yourself over and over, a couple of times a day. You do that for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you'll start to notice and catch yourself when you're being affected by other people. And you're changing your behaviors based on that. So there it is. So in order to start to move away from caring about what people think and actually start behaving how you want to behave to achieve what you want to achieve, body shape or otherwise, you can implement this strategy by, first of all, noticing when you're changing your behaviors and then going ahead and doing what you wanted to do in the first place. And then the other thing is saying the affirmation to yourself so that you begin to train your subconscious mind to not be so worried or affected by people's opinions. If you have any comments, now is the time. Any questions? Obviously, we just spoke about how to overcome this kind of fear or this wanting to show up for people or changing your behaviors based on worrying about what people think. So obviously it's a massive topic, massive thing, and that's pretty much it. So I'm hopefully going to be doing this live stream every week. I'm going to be doing it 8 p.m. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section here. I look forward to catching you guys on the next one. Peace out.